are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it is taking them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature as half an hour ago, Mexican officials closed the border in the light of so many U.S. refugees.
Be prepared to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting into the camera?
What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes! A twister!
This is just massive.
The lines ran along the graffitied walls, at least 100 people eagerly waiting for what's been kept well under wraps.
It said, dress like an animal or wear horns and tails.
Some drove in from as far as upstate New York to see the Satanic Temple unveil a 9-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan.
It just seemed like it would be a historic event.
Look at this huge tornado up in Manitoba, Canada. This was on Monday, and get this tornado was on the ground for 2.5 to 3 hours straight.
Wow, guys, look at this. Oof.
This is awesome.
Look, it's 37 degrees.
Well, it's an event that's created a lot of buzz among local churches and Christian groups. The largest public satanic ceremony in history happening right here in Detroit. 7 Action News reporter Jane Park is live with us tonight. Jane, organizers went to great lengths to keep this a private, exclusive party. What's up?
They really did, Dave. Now, we are standing along Grand River, and the building behind me was where guests originally came, but shortly after they were let in, they were told to go to a second undisclosed location where we're to believe that party is going on right now. The Satanic Temple made it very clear it would be their members and their guests and not our cameras that will be getting a first look at this much talked about statue. The lines ran along the graffitied walls, at least 100 people eagerly waiting for what's been kept well under wraps.
It said, dress like an animal or wear horns and tails.
Some drove in from as far as upstate New York to see the Satanic Temple unveil a 9-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan.
It just seemed like it would be a historic event.
The guests came dressed to impress. Each paid at least $25 for a ticket. Security inside was tight. No cameras or media allowed in. No cell phones and photographs allowed. The secretive nature of the event didn't prevent a few protesters from attending.
We figured, well, if they're going to unveil a statue and show a statue, well, we're going to show the statue that beat this statue behind the scenes in reality. That's, recounted in the St. John's Apocalypse that St. Michael and his angels defeated Lucifer and his angels.
Members of the Satanic Temple, who say they stand for the separation of church and state, kept mum Saturday night, focused instead on showing their guests a good time. Some came out of curiosity, others just to appreciate the art. And they say don't knock it just because it's not your taste.
A sculpture or a piece of art or a tribute to something that they don't understand is not necessarily going to impact their religion or their beliefs.
There was so much buzz about the night, Detroit police set up outside just to make sure the Satanists and the naysayers stayed civil.
We support anyone's First Amendment right to practice whatever religion they want or to come out and protest against that, their freedom of speech. So, we're there basically to protect the rights of everyone involved.
In the end, the group made good on its promise to make this an exclusive event. Guests patient enough to make it through the line were promptly sent out the back door where outsiders can only imagine the real party awaits. A party, we're told, is supposed to last well beyond midnight. As for the statue, it could end up at the Arkansas State Capitol, where there is a Ten Commandments statue also planned. Live near downtown Detroit, Jane Park, 7 Action News.
half of the sockeye salmon in the Columbia River are dying.
And biologists say it's because of the weeks and weeks of hot, dry weather we've been having.
Chris Holmstrom going beyond the headlines to find out if anything at this point can be done to stop it. Chris.
Jeff and Jennifer, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of sockeye salmon, and it's all happening along here, the Columbia River. And it's a problem that's been going on for quite a while, and fish biologists are calling this die-off unprecedented. For Nick Blevins and his family, fishing in the Columbia River is part of their livelihood, and it's being affected by the warmer, drier weather.
The fish are not looking in good condition.
Especially the sockeye salmon.
Some of them will have lesions on them from the scars they get from making their way upriver and stuff, and they just get infected by the warm water.
I found out the cold water species are dying by the thousands. Some even predict more than 250,000 sockeye salmon returning from the ocean to spawn are either dead or dying in the Columbia River. It's this mass die-off that's also affecting other species.
Once they start dying, the sturgeons start feeding off the sockeye, and then that's not good because the sockeye already have gill diseases in them and lesions, and then that's like contaminating the sturgeons to where they're going to die.
In fact, I learned in just the last few weeks, more than 50 sturgeon have died. These pictures taken near Tri-Cities, Washington. I took these concerns to fish biologist Ron Roller.
Any sockeye that are through this area here in the lower river that haven't passed McNary Dam, if they haven't passed McNary Dam yet, they probably won't make it up here into the Okanagan system to spawn.
Roller says the water temperature is the main problem. It's about 5 to 6 degrees warmer than usual, and it's this lack of oxygen that's killing the fish. I asked him if anything's being done to prevent this.
We're looking at moving water through the system from Canada to try and keep things cool.
But it's uncertain if it'll work.
All we can do now is wait for a timely rain and water to rise and cool down so that they can continue on.
But if the warmer, drier conditions continue, it could be the end for these endangered species.
For something that's been here longer than us, that's going to go to extinction, we're not too far behind them.
Back out here live, it's unknown just how many sockeye salmon have died or will die. I found out biologists will have a better count around the beginning of next year. Reporting live near the Columbia River, I'm Chris Holmstrom for KOIN 6 News.
Okay, Chris, keep us updated about that.
The sidelines are no longer an option. Turkey cannot afford to maintain its controversial, albeit cautious approach to the Syrian war raging next door.
There has been a reassessment in Ankara that this policy cannot continue in order for Turkey to be able to persevere and to maintain its own regional influence. It had to be part in a much more visible, concrete way in the entire ISIS coalition.
Turkey is now bombing ISIS targets, and after lengthy negotiations with Washington, conceded on some of its positions, such as demanding strikes on the Assad regime, and agreed to open Turkish bases and airspace to U.S. aircraft to create not a no-fly zone, but a so-called ISIS-free zone.
And the weakness of this plan is essentially about who is going to be on the ground to protect this zone free of ISIS.
And can Turkey protect its own population against ISIS retaliation? Some people even stopped taking the Istanbul metro after unsubstantiated reports that certain stations would be targeted. Turkey also reopened the front with its domestic battle against the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which it deems a terrorist organization. A move that severely heightened tensions between the Turks and the Kurds, tensions that in the past 3 decades have claimed some 40,000 lives. Turkey needs to ensure that it has the capital to launch this multi-pronged, contentious anti-terrorism campaign, calling on fellow NATO members to convene a special meeting of the alliance on Tuesday.
What Turkey wants to do with this is essentially two things. One is to communicate to its allies the new security environment, its new threat assessment after its decision to become a much more visible and active player in the anti-ISIS coalition. And secondly, it wants to get the political backing within NATO for what it's called its campaign against terrorism, which on the one hand includes ISIS and on the other hand the PKK.
These are all very intricate maneuvers, Mac, in the regional game of chess, ones that may help to diminish ISIS's capabilities, although not necessarily defeat the terrorist organization. This is not a game changer when it comes to the broader war on ISIS, but it most certainly is a change in how the game is being played by Turkey.
Look at this huge tornado up in Manitoba, Canada. This was on Monday, and get this tornado was on the ground for 2.5 to 3 hours straight. That's an extremely long-lived tornado. Now, if there was anything good about this tornado, how about the fact that it really didn't hit anything significant? There was a little bit of minor damage at a farm in Tilston, but for a huge tornado of that size to be on the ground for that long, close to 3 hours, and not do any major damage, that's a really good thing. I mean, this is prime storm chasing country, and a lot of people from the United States might think, look at this, a tornado in Canada? This is going to be a pretty rare event, right? Well, no, that's actually not the case. This time of year, in the summer, when the jet stream moves up toward the north, it's storm time up in parts of Canada, northern United States. Tornado season up there for sure.
Wow, guys, look at this. Oh.
This is awesome.
Look, it's 37 degrees. And snowing.
Continuing with those rains in our area, not only forcing people to seek higher ground, but also forcing some unwanted guests too, something I can't even really look at, rattlesnakes. Our Jacqueline Inglace speaking tonight with one of a Citrus County man who shot and killed a 5.5-foot rattler in his own front yard.
Biggest and scariest.
Slithering into Rick Hibbard's front yard, this 5.5-foot rattlesnake.
First I thought it was a squirrel, you know, that had been hit and was just flopping around.
It wasn't, and now it's taking cover here in his front bushes at his Citrus County home.
His head was probably about that big around, and his body in the middle was probably about that big around.
Knowing the snakes have poisonous venom and a bite could be deadly, trying to protect his family, Hibbard grabbed a gun, firing off 4 shots. 15 minutes later,
And he wouldn't stop moving. And he was raised up. His rattles were going. It's pretty scary.
according to FWC, it's legal for you to kill a rattlesnake if it's on your property. You just can't trap and keep one as a pet.
We don't recommend it. We always try to guide people to not kill the snake, as well as just let it go, just because it does perform such a valued service for the environment.
Hibbard's not the only one running into rattlers. Here's one captured just last week in Crystal River, and another captured on a bike trail just a few blocks from Hibbard's home.
Rattlesnakes come out, and just like any other snakes, come out to sun themselves, to warm up, as well as to try to find some higher, drier ground.
Hibbard did not approach the rattler for an hour. He knew that just because they look dead, their reflexes and ability to bite are still working, at least for a little bit.
There are kids in the neighborhood, and there's pets. People walk their dogs up and down the street all the time.
So you knew you had to do something?
Yes, that was my main concern.
In Citrus County, for the Now Tampa Bay, I'm Jacqueline Glace.
Tonight to help you get ready for the big earthquake.
Yeah, our Core Harlan is watching out for you and met with a group working to prepare Portland for all kinds of disasters, and he found one neighborhood especially at risk.
helping to prepare people.
Around a table in the basement of the Portland School District, this committee is in charge of identifying potential disasters and prioritizing where it thinks the city should spend money to lessen the impact of those disasters.
And hopefully make us all safer and more resilient from disasters.
I learned at tonight's meeting that if the big Cascadia earthquake were to happen right now, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the entire city of Portland would be here along Highway 30 in the Linton neighborhood.
The tank farms aren't here far from where we're standing right now, you know, and they're going to go.
Jimmy Staley lives in the Linton home that his parents bought back in 1959. I found out tonight 90% of fuel used in Oregon comes through one of the many gasoline storage tanks along Highway 30. There's worry about them rupturing or even exploding in the case of a really big earthquake, and Jimmy can see some of those tanks from where he lives.
Is it a concern? In the back of our minds, it is. I know that the neighborhood association and some of the people in the neighborhood are proactive on that issue, but we know it's here. We still live here.
And if gasoline storage wasn't enough of a concern, the City of Portland emergency planner also told me about several other factors making Linton among the most dangerous neighborhoods to be in when the big one hits.
It's also in the floodplain, in a liquefaction zone. It has wildland fire interface risk, and it has one way in and one way out.
The working group is helping the city plan for disaster with an eye towards making sure lower income parts of Portland don't get left behind in the preparation. They'll present their work to City Council sometime next year. In Linton, Cor Harlan, KOIN 6 News.
Well, tonight was the committee's first meeting, so they don't really have any solutions yet, but they'll be working over the coming months to develop plans to make neighborhoods like Linton safer.
Jay Ward, we begin tonight at 11 with demonstrations against Planned Parenthood from coast to coast. The demonstrators are demanding federal funding to the group be cut off. This after an anti-abortion group called the Center for Medical Progress released a third video secretly recorded showing a doctor talk about pricing to buy parts for organs from a fetus for research. Planned Parenthood says it does accept money to reimburse the cost of transferring the fetal remains. Now, Planned Parenthood says it never profited from the sales and has done nothing illegal. Now, that nationwide protest included Santa Barbara. Protesters marched outside the Planned Parenthood offices on Garden Street. News Channel 3's Tracy Laird joins us live. And Tracy, it sounds like it was a peaceful protest.
CJ, when protesters showed up here at the Santa Barbara clinic, Planned Parenthood called the police to make sure they didn't block the entrance. It turned out to be a peaceful protest, but a controversial one. Planned Parenthood protesters say they believe Planned Parenthood sells fetal tissue for a profit. They say secretly recorded videos prove it.
The way she was talking about how this could be a Lamborghini payment, how many human lives does it take to pay for a Lamborghini? How many human lives does it take to actually be that down payment?
And to be so nonchalant about their lives, about the fact that they had no choice, about the fact that they're just being sold off as if they're objects and not people.
Planned Parenthood says Santa Barbara's location does not offer patients the ability to donate fetal tissue for research. Other locations in Southern and Central California do, but they say reimbursement only covers clinic costs.
In the video, one of our staff members speaks in a way that does not reflect that compassion. This is unacceptable, and I personally apologize for the staff member's tone and statements.
Many of the Santa Barbara protesters say they oppose the morning after pill and other forms of contraception too. They'd like to see Planned Parenthood shut down.
All life does matter, and we've gathered quite a few people from different spectrums of the world, and we said, you know, let's put it all aside and let's do it for the children.
Presidential contenders are quickly weighing in. While Rand Paul wants to cut funding, Hillary Clinton says the denial of family planning confines women to lives of oppression and that abortions should be safe and rare. Protesters say they'll be back. And protesters believe at least 3 more videos will be released and they do say they will protest following them. In Santa Barbara, Tracy Lair, News Channel 3.
We are going to go live now to Goleta, California, where officials have shut down a beach after kayakers reported an oil slick. You are looking now at live pictures. The Santa Barbara Fire Department is telling CBS News that a sheen about a half-mile long has been spotted in the water. The U.S. Coast Guard is investigating the source of the spill. You may remember it was in this area not long ago that there was an oil spill. And so the question right now is, could this be the remnants of the oil spill that happened recently, or is this a new spill? CBS News has been told that kayakers and boaters in the area apparently came back to the shoreline and actually were covered in oil. A call was made to local officials. Coast Guard responded. And so again, these are live pictures coming to us. It's just off the coast of Santa Barbara in an area known as Goleta Beach, a beautiful area, very popular for vacation goers. So we are going to continue to monitor this right here on CBSN and let you know if it's another oil spill or part of the one that happened recently.
Taking a look at this thing, it appears to be about 7 feet long, maybe 3 or 4 feet wide. And if it is part of this missing plane, they're trying to look where it might fit into the plane. Our aviation analysts have looked it over themselves, and they basically say this could be a part that would be right in here, that's sort of the inner flap right up next to the body of the plane there. So they have to consider, is it the right type to fit there? Is it the right color to fit there? And was it found in the right place?
Airplane debris discovered on the tiny African island of Reunion has investigators scrambling to figure out if they may finally have evidence as to what happened to the missing plane, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. At first blush, experts say it at least looks like the right kind of equipment.
When I look at the pictures, I see a portion of the wing, and it could be either a flap, an aileron, or what we call in the 777 a flaperon, which is a combination of both.
MH370 disappeared after taking off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on March 8th last year, bound for Beijing with 239 people aboard.
Good night, Malaysia, 370.
After signing off at the control tower for the last time, the flight veered dramatically off course and disappeared from radar.
It's incomprehensible that this airplane has been missing for this long without any trace of it debris-wise for about 1.5 years now.
For months, investigators searched the waters from Vietnam to Australia for any signs of wreckage, always coming up empty. They also looked into the backgrounds of the pilots, going so far as to examine body language on airport surveillance video, and again, they found nothing. Malaysian authorities eventually declared the flight a loss and said the passengers and crew were all presumed dead, something many families refused to accept. And now this, after almost 500 days of fruitless searching, finally what may be the first real clue and hope for answers.
There have been other crashes over here near Reunion Island, so it's possible that this debris could be linked to something like that. They'll have to check the serial numbers on this, and then they will know for sure if they have a match. But even then, they'll have a big question, Jake, and that is, what was it doing way over here near Africa when all these search areas have been over here toward Australia?
New developments in the police shooting death of a man in Cincinnati. The officer who opened fire is charged with murder. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez has more on the police video that led to today's announcement. A warning: the video is graphic and may be disturbing.
This body cam video shows the moments prosecutors say a Cincinnati University police officer became a murderer.
Go and take your seatbelt off. Stop!
Officer Ray Tenzing firing once, shooting the unarmed driver that he just pulled over for a missing front license plate. A grand jury indicted the 25-year-old officer for Sam Dubos's murder.
This is the most asinine act I've ever seen a police officer make. Totally unwarranted.
Prosecutors say the newly released video refutes the officer's claims that Dubos started to drive off, dragging him with his car.
I think he lost his temper. And when you see this, you will not believe how quickly he pulls his gun and shoots him in the head.
Dubos's family is pleading for peace, saying they are grateful they are getting justice, with Tenzing now behind bars.
I want everybody to just lift up their heads in prayer and thank God, because this one did not go unsolved.
Tenzing turned himself in this afternoon and is expected to be arraigned tomorrow. His attorney says he feels terrible about his death, Dubos's death, but maintains that the officer shot because he feared he was about to be run over.
In the world.
That's right. The police can claim that it was in self-defense and that people would take their words. The only reason why Tenzing is being convicted, why Tenzing is being charged, is because there was a body cam.
Yes. That's right. Thank you all for coming out and standing in the rain for my brother. Because I'm sure he would have did it for each and every last one of you all. And we want justice. That's right. The conviction.
This happened for a reason. My brother wanted this world to change.
That's all we want. That's all we want. Thank you.
Against the backdrop of a national gun control debate, Los Angeles has made it against the law to have high-capacity magazines. The city council voted to ban any magazine that can hold 10 rounds or more of ammunition. These magazines have been used in numerous mass shootings in the United States. City council member Paul Krikorian pushed for the law, saying high-capacity magazines have nothing to do with constitutional rights.
People who are civilians, people who want to defend their homes, people who want to defend their families, don't need a 100-round drum magazine and an automatic weapon to do it.
Gun control advocates and gun violence victims are applauding the ban.
We can move forward. You know, to me, this measure being passed instills hope.
Ruett and Rhonda Foster lost one of their children to gun violence. Rhonda says the shooter had an automatic weapon and shot her car by mistake.
I had seconds to back out of the way as fast as I could, and 14 of them hit our vehicle and murdered our son Evan, who was just 7 years old, and injured Alec, who was just 10 months old.
Ruett Foster says more cities need to take Los Angeles' lead to end America's epidemic of gun violence.
Looking at the big picture, keeping focused on the big picture, but doing what little steps you can to get there. And this measure speaks to that. It truly, truly speaks to that. I believe it really instills hope that there's a greater future of safety, for humanity.
The ban closes a loophole in California state law that prevented the purchase of high-capacity magazines, but did not make it a crime to possess them.
The National Rifle Association has challenged similar gun control measures in the past, but city officials say they are confident that they will survive any legal challenge. Ross Frazier, Press TV, Los Angeles.
Mama, mama, can't you see
what the police have done to me?
Ain't no justice in this town.
Ain't no justice in this town.
I mean, differently abled black women. All right, so we really.
You know, that could be me, that could be someone else I care about, that could be someone else I love, and it's terrifying. It's really terrifying. And we're here because we're worried that we'll be next, you know, as black women. That's why I'm here.
Impacted by state violence.
Sky News 13 caught it all from the air as SWAT finally walked out the second suspect in an 8-hour standoff. He had been holed up in a tire shop near Louisiana and Zuni.
The suspect, 36-year-old Martin Duran, still tried putting up a fight, even in handcuffs. His accomplice, 28-year-old Alicia Lopez, gave up hours earlier, leaving him behind in the tire shop. Police spent hours trying everything to get Duran out of that tire shop.
Hours that paralyzed that part of the city. News 13's Chris McKee is live where it all took place at Louisiana and Zuni. Chris?
Yeah, Dean and Jessica, while one of these suspects came out fast, the other one stayed holed up here in this tire shop for hours, 8 hours to be exact, creating a nightmare for neighbors and local businesses, which lasted all day.
From APD SWAT team flashbangs to the bomb squad, neighbors saw it all at a tire shop on Louisiana and Zuni all day.
I kept trying to get to my apartment and everything's all blocked up.
They shut down all the streets.
There's always something going on over here.
It's extremely frustrating.
At the heart of it, police say, was Alicia Lopez and Martin Duran, convicted criminals with long rap sheets who started their crime spree yesterday with a carjacking in the Heights.
Here we are again. He's carjacking an 81-year-old woman yesterday at gunpoint.
Around 9:30 this morning, police spotted the stolen white Chevy SUV. Lopez and Duran took off, leading police on a chase through the city, ending at the Louisiana tire shop where they tried to hitch a ride from a customer.
He said, "I'll give you $500 right now if you give me a ride."
It didn't work. Police pulled up and only the suspect stayed inside, refusing to come out. 3 hours into it, Lopez surrendered, but Duran wouldn't come out.
Hey, you're gonna have to go on the outside of the room.
It shut down the neighborhood and caused almost everyone to change their plans.
Well, I walked about maybe a mile just to get home.
It's crazy. I was just planning to go straight, but now I have to.
We shut down shut down an entire city block. Local businesses lost a lot of business for the day. Restaurants, the tire shop he was holed up in.
Police tried to call Duran throughout the day, more than 400 times on multiple phones. He never answered. They also set off flashbangs. Then at about 6 o'clock, the SWAT pulled him out of an upstairs loft of the tire shop. Police say he was just bruised up.
The more we go after these guys and have to catch them again and again and again, their escalation of violence and their willingness to get away and their drive to get away escalates.
Now, police say Duran didn't have a weapon on him, and they didn't find a weapon inside of that tire shop. Now, they have since cleared the scene and reopened the roads, Zuni and Louisiana, which were closed for hours around this scene. Back to you.
All right, Chris, thank you. Martin and Lopez both have long criminal histories. Online court records show he's been arrested a number of times, including just last month for stealing a car. Martin's arrests include extortion, rape, fleeing from police, assault, armed robbery, and felon in possession of a gun. A woman we spoke to at the scene said she is related to Martin and knew that he was in trouble.
He did mention to me that he did have a stolen vehicle parked somewhere, but he didn't tell me what kind of vehicle it was.
Martin also had a warrant for armed robbery.
Alicia Lopez has caused a lot of trouble in her young life. The 28-year-old's criminal history is long and covers everything from armed robbery to stealing cars. In fact, just last night, we told you Lopez was wanted in Santa Fe for robbing a gas station. Santa Fe police say a detective will be in Albuquerque to question Lopez.